Welcome to World History with Mr. Giese. In this episode, we will be discussing the leaders in Europe after World War I. At the end, you'll be able to understand how the conditions allowed certain leaders to come to power and how these leaders will advance the world into another world war. In Europe after World War I, nations were dealing with several issues. The economy was suffering, people were looking to rebuild their nations, and some wanted complete independence from the controlling country. This type of conflict and instability will often lead to an emergence of a person or group with a plan to calm conflicts and add more stability to their area. For better or for worse, these groups, if they gain momentum, can end up leading an entire people starving for some sort of change. You will see these conditions present in Europe after World War I. First, in Italy, we have Benito Mussolini. His driving force was that he wanted to build a great and glorious empire in Italy. In 1919, he founded the National Fascist Party. The key principle was the idea of fascism and its authoritarian form of government that places the nation above all else, including that of individual needs and rights. 3 years later, in 1922, the National Fascist Party became a significant force in politics, but Mussolini wanted more. He led the March on Rome, and this convinced the Italian king to put Mussolini at the head of the government. Soon after, he began using violence to become a dictator. Totalitarianism, or wanting to control thought, feelings, and behaviors of the people, became his way of rule. He used propaganda to promote the greatness of Italy. And in 1935, in an effort to expand his rule, Mussolini attacked and defeated Ethiopia. The League of Nations condemned this action, but they did nothing to stop it. The Soviet Union, as we discussed last time, was in need of a ruler after Vladimir Lenin died. Joseph Stalin would fill that void with communism. To strengthen communism in the Soviet Union, he implemented a totalitarian state. This differs from Marx's idea, which was eventually trying to overthrow the state with less government. In 1928, in the 5-year plan, the government started to make decisions of production opposed to having markets make these decisions like in a capitalist system. When this plan was implemented, production of oil by 2 times and coal and steel quadrupled, but it put a heavy demand on workers. Stalin also implemented collectivization to combine farms to make larger, more mechanized farms in an effort to increase production. After the revolution, Vladimir Lenin gave land to the peasants, but now Stalin started taking away that land, and if they resisted, they were either killed or they were sent to Siberia to work in gulags, or a system of labor camps. When Ukrainians in 1932 started to resist collectivization, Stalin refused to send food to them. And in a real exhibit of power in the mid-1930s, Stalin executed or sent to Siberia anyone that opposed him in the Great Purge. Finally, the name that you'll probably recognize the most, Adolf Hitler, emerged as the ruler of Germany, but this would take some time. The conditions were very similar to the rest of Europe, but their conditions also consisted of being humiliated by the Treaty of Versailles, and their money being worthless because of inflation. This combination of events led to an environment where people wanted change. Hitler became involved with the National Socialist Party, or the Nazi Party, after fighting in World War I. He was a very good speaker and politician. In 1923, he led an attempt to overthrow the government where he was put in jail. While he was in jail, he wrote Mein Kampf, where he outlined his major political ideas, nationalism, and the superiority of the Aryan race. After he was released and his popularity grew, he promised to rebuild the military and empire. In 1933, he became the chancellor, where he crushed his opposition and gained powers of dictator and began to follow through on rebuilding the military and improving the economy. A major component of the Nazis was anti-Semitism. Hitler blamed Jews for many problems, including losing World War I. In 1935, Nuremberg laws created a separate legal status for Jews. This eliminated their citizenship, many civil and property rights, including voting, and then certain jobs excluded Jews. This was all based on their ancestry, not on their current religious beliefs. Going forward with this, on November 9th and 10th of 1938, Kristallnacht, or the Night of Broken Glass, where nights of anti-Jewish riots where 100 Jews were killed and Jewish businesses and places of worship were destroyed or damaged. These three dictators will end up causing issues in Europe and in the world.